Hi and welcome to the Wise Fish Chess Academy, yet another video in the 2025 Superbet Classic in Romania. Again, this is round 8. In the previous round, we looked at Lukesh versus Aronian in the rival base. And today we're looking at a game between Pragnananda and Grandmaster Wesley So. Now, Wesley So with the white pieces, Pragnananda with the black pieces. And let's just show you how this went. So Wesley So goes with the d4 setup of the knight of 6. This is a style I like to play a lot. It transposes into very, very many lines and variations for black. You can play the g6, you can play the e6, you can play the c5. That's a small idea. You're going to play b6. So I like it because it's a bit like an open-minded opening dynamic. So c4 is played, c5 is played, as you can see. D5, and we're getting into Benoni kind of setup. And then, Fernando hits b5, the Benko gambit. Now, I've played this recently in a few, in a few arcade games. I think 2+ games with good results. Okay, interesting opening, fun opening. Many of these have been dropped. I'll note especially the Benko, you don't see it much. But it is still a very, very solid opening which you can use to prepare against your opponents and catch them off guard. So b5. And then we go pawn takes b5, a6, then e3. This is the standard moves that are played of late. It's more common now than in the old. In the old, they would actually capture bishop pawn times a6, and then the bishop develops, and then or the knight, and then you have a lot of interesting activity. And it really doesn't go on any game. But the way black is put in fight of pressure, and usually those games end in draws. So, anyways, so we have e3 that is played, captures, queen a5 check, knight c3, bishop b7, and white just ignores it. Of course, you cannot take this now with any of the pieces because when the knight captures whatever piece took it, if you take this, then you have a fork here and you lose the queen. So you have to be careful about that. That's the trick. You can take it. Queen goes to b6 and he just gives it up. Lets it go. So black captures the piece back. a4, the e6, e5, takes 6. Aronian gives up a pawn in the center. But see, at this level, there's always pawn sacrifices. Very interesting activity. And you think that both of them have not even cancelled. They both kings and started. And it looks like as though both will soon get move like b5. We have a lot of activity in the center. This pin is only temporary. So all black has to do is simply play bishop e7 or bishop d6, and then we'll castle, and then we'll get out of all this trouble. Though that is not very easy to achieve right now because bishop is hitting in g7. So the moves are quite interesting here. You have to be careful as black. Engine actually evaluation says that black is actually slightly worse than white. So we have knight goes to e5, giving up the pawn, and on b2 it's dangerous to take the pawn, activate the rook on g1, and then queen goes to h5. And there'll be so much pressure everywhere with the rook here. And I mean, you don't want that. You're already having too much in your face, and you don't want to become greedy to take an extra pawn on g2. So queen goes to b7, queen goes to h5, bishop at g6, takes queen check, king f1, takes with the f pawn. He doesn't want to give up the queen in exchange. So queen goes to h3, queen f5. He's not going to accept the exchange location. I mean, Pragnananda, he really wants to win. So he's going to play knight c6. And it looks funny. Already he has a double pawns here on g5. We have the double pawn that he's going to get here. So the game is a bit funny. White cannot. So it's a strange game. It would not be so comfortable in such a position as black. In other words, it's white at least has the active pieces, the bishop pair, and so on, and it's not manually castling. Everything black is still quite far away from it. So queen goes to c7, and that's a dangerous move. Queen comes to e4. to d5, sorry, and then bishop takes, pawn takes, he doesn't exchange queens. H4 is played just to release the rook. Maybe it is going to go up and put pressure on the EF where flies. Maybe also just push the pawn to H5 and create some dynamic pressure. There's a lot that Aronian is trying to play for. He is slightly better. I'll lay down a pawn. So we have bishop e7. Finally, yes, the bishop rook e3 as expected, but Milan does not pass so. He just goes rook to3, giving up the pawn on f7. On g7, the game is equal at this moment, but I think it's becoming more comfortable for white, in my opinion. So queen turns to the exchange, he's not going to take it. And if you take it, the pawns will not exchange queen, so that's not going to happen. And bishop gets to a centralized square. And now this is where Padmananda gets to turn on the heat. He has now been able to successfully get his pieces into good positions. Now, if you take it, then you get a black gets a strong 3 pawn in the center, black's rooks and pieces that all of a sudden all very active, and Iranian only has just one, which is still not fully active. It's in control defense mode. So the game is becoming exciting. So bishop takes, pawn takes, but he probably had to take it, I don't know. And then h5. This is a move we had said he's probably going to do at some point. But now without the bishop on c3, this is not as strong as it seemed. So rook goes to f6, king goes to g1, it's just a good move. King f7 takes to the rook, and position getting interested now. Pawn going to d3. The queen is kind of being pushed away, and remember, this king is already suffocated. This rook is now looking a bit displaced. This one hasn't yet even gotten to do anything yet. I'm not yet even joined the fight. So the queen has blockades, and then the rook just I'm not even worried about the pawn on h7. Just moves forward with the attack. Idea is to come to e4, and then later on just force the pawn forward, and it will be difficult for you to do anything after that. And well, position is quite much better for black already. And so Aronian did not do much to stop that. He went pawn grabbing, and the victory is rook, and then he proceeded with the moves as we had thought. And here it's really getting very awkward. The position is actually bad. It's -7, and then the rook came to hit on the weak f2 square. Then it brings rook a2. Then the queen comes to e4. You cannot take this with the rook because of the rook. That would just be a mate. So he played rook f1, and after rook f1, black plays f3, rook to f3, kicking away the queen, and the queen can no longer hold onto the pawn. So when the queen moves away, and then rook goes to e1, and there is no way stopping a checkmate, or just at least losing the piece for free, or after the exchange of rooks, we're simply going to get another queen. So Wesley So resigned at this moment. The position was actually quite very, very undefendable. Kudos to Praggs, who played a very, very unusual game with a lot of double pawns, with structural problems, but in the end, all those things have worked in his favor. So thank you again for watching. There's more videos coming. Remember to subscribe, tell your friends about it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.